Imagine, uh, the shock of coming face to face with someone that you betrayed, like the one you thought was lost forever.
Yeah.
That's kind of the emotional core of what we're looking at today. Genesis chapter 42, the story of Joseph and his brothers. We're using the King James Version of the Bible.
Okay.
And the commentary by Matthew Henry.
Got it.
From 1710.
Okay.
So this is a story of these captivated people.
Yeah.
For centuries.
Oh, yeah.
For good reason.
For good reason.
Yeah.
It really kind of grapples with these sort of timeless themes,
Right.
family,
Yeah.
betrayal, forgiveness, even
Divine providence.
divine providence, yeah. So before we get to that dramatic reunion, we kind of need to set the stage a little bit. We're in the midst of a famine, and Jacob, the patriarch of the family, sends 10 of his sons to Egypt to buy grain.
Right. And what's crucial here is that Jacob is holding back his youngest son, Benjamin,
Right.
out of fear of losing him.
Yeah.
You see, years earlier, Jacob's sons sold their brother Joseph into slavery. Right.
Right. And Jacob believed Joseph is dead and has never recovered from that loss.
So these brothers are carrying a lot of baggage,
Yeah.
both literally and figuratively, as they journey to Egypt.
Absolutely.
Little do they know their brother Joseph isn't dead.
Right.
He's risen to become the governor of Egypt.
A position of immense power.
Yeah. Power and authority.
Yes.
And this sets up like a very fascinating
It does.
power dynamic.
Yes.
On one hand, you have the brothers who wrong Joseph, who are desperate for his help.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you have Joseph now in a position to pass judgment
Yes.
or offer mercy.
Or mercy.
And he chooses a rather
Even conventional.
unconventional approach.
Yes.
He, instead of revealing himself immediately, he accuses them of being spies,
Right.
treats them harshly, throws them in prison.
This is where we start to see
Yeah.
Joseph's inner turmoil.
Right.
He's clearly wrestling with his own pain and the desire for justice.
Sure.
But there's also a glimmer of something else. A desire for reconciliation, perhaps?
I mean, this test, as some might call it, feels pretty harsh.
It does.
I mean, it's as if he needs to know if they've changed,
Yeah.
if they regret their actions.
Yeah.
He's probing for a sign of genuine remorse.
And it's during those 3 days in prison that their guilt really starts to gnaw at them.
Yeah.
Matthew Henry, in his commentary, highlights their psychological torment,
Right?
pointing out that their past cruelty toward Joseph is coming back to haunt them. It's almost as if they're experiencing what psychologists call moral injury.
Wow.
This deep psychological distress that can result from violating one's own moral code.
I mean, their past actions are literally keeping them up at night.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how this ancient story, taps into such a universal human experience.
Yeah, it is.
The way guilt can weigh us down and cloud our judgment.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about their individual guilt.
Right.
It's also about the erosion of trust within the family. Their betrayal fractured the family bond,
Right.
and now they're facing the consequences of that brokenness.
So Joseph demands that they return home and bring back
wow.
Benjamin.
Their youngest brother.
Yeah. Their youngest brother, as proof of their honesty.
As proof.
Can you imagine the weight of that journey back?
I mean, they're returning to their father not only empty-handed,
Right.
but with one brother imprisoned in Egypt
Right.
and another demanded as collateral.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trapped in a web of their own making.
Totally. And on top of that, they make a surprising discovery when they get home.
Oh, yeah.
Their money, the money they used to buy the grain, has been secretly returned to their sacks.
Now, this is where it gets really intriguing.
Yeah.
This act of kindness
Oh, yeah.
is typical of Joseph's character.
Right.
It foreshadows his ultimate goal of reconciliation,
Right.
not revenge.
Yeah.
But the brothers, consumed by guilt and fear, misinterpret it completely.
Of course.
They see it as a trap, a bad omen.
It's like they're so blinded by their past actions that they can't recognize a genuine act of goodwill.
Right.
It speaks to the power of guilt to distort our perception
Yeah.
and make us suspicious even of those who are trying to help us.
And their reaction speaks to another key theme that runs throughout this story.
Right.
This theme of divine providence.
Yeah.
Even though they can't see it, Joseph is already working to protect them, to provide for them. He's become an instrument of God's grace,
Right.
even as they remain unaware of his true identity.
They find this money and they're terrified. They have to go back to their father Jacob and explain everything.
Yeah.
This can't be a fun conversation.
Oh, no, it's not. Jacob sees this returned money as a bad omen. Remember, he's already lost Joseph, and now he fears losing Simeon and Benjamin, too.
Right.
It feels like a curse is hanging over his family.
And this is where we really see the depth of Jacob's, grief and fear.
Yeah.
I mean, he's torn between protecting Benjamin and ensuring the survival of his other sons
Right.
and their families. The famine is relentless, and they desperately need more grain.
They do. This dilemma speaks to a universal human experience, that struggle to balance logic and emotion, especially when facing a crisis.
Right.
Jacob's heart is heavy with grief, but he also has to consider the practical needs of his family.
So what does he decide?
Well, his sons plead with him, emphasizing that they need Benjamin to secure Simeon's release.
Right.
One brother, Reuben, even offers his own 2 sons as a guarantee,
Wow.
pledging to bring Benjamin back safely.
Yeah.
It's a desperate attempt to reassure their father.
Wow. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. That's a huge risk for Reuben.
It is, and it shows how dire the situation has become. They're willing to risk everything to save their family.
But Jacob is still hesitant, right?
Of course. It's agonizing for him to even consider letting Benjamin go. But eventually, driven by desperation and I think a sliver of hope, he relents. It's a decision born out of necessity, but also, I think, out of a deep, abiding faith.
Faith that things will somehow work out, even though all signs point to disaster.
Exactly. It's a leap of faith, a trust in a higher power to guide events, even when human understanding fails.
So picture this. The brothers arrive back in Egypt, Benjamin by their side.
Right.
They're ushered into Joseph's palace. Talk about a pressure cooker of a situation.
I mean, the tension must have been palpable. Imagine the mix of emotions swirling within Joseph, the joy of seeing his younger brother alive, the years of pain and longing,
Right.
and perhaps a lingering anger towards his brothers.
And how does he handle this emotionally charged reunion?
Well, he maintains his facade,
Okay.
but his actions betray his true feelings. He throws a lavish feast in their honor.
Right.
Lavishing them with hospitality, it's as if he's trying to shower them with kindness
Yeah.
to compensate for the years of hardship they unknowingly inflicted on him.
It's interesting how food plays such a central role in this story. I mean, it's a symbol of sustenance, of course, but also of hospitality, of reconciliation.
Absolutely. Sharing a meal is a deeply symbolic act, a way of building trust and fostering connection.
Right.
But beneath the surface of this celebratory feast, there's this underlying tension.
Right.
This sense that Joseph is still testing his brothers,
Yeah.
observing their every move.
He's like a psychologist conducting an experiment,
Yes.
carefully manipulating the variables to see how they respond.
Exactly. And their behavior during the feast is telling. They're still on edge,
Right.
unsure of what to make of Joseph's generosity, but there's a marked difference in their treatment of Benjamin.
Okay.
They're protective of him,
Right.
showing genuine affection and care.
It's a far cry from the jealousy and cruelty they directed toward Joseph all those years ago.
Right.
Could this be the proof Joseph's been looking for?
It seems that way.
The evidence of their changed hearts.
Yeah. But Joseph needs to be certain, so he hatches another plan.
Okay.
The plan designed to push them to their limits, to test the depth of their transformation. He orders his servants to secretly place his own silver cup in Benjamin's bag.
Oh, wow. That's a high-stakes gamble.
It is.
It's as if he's setting a trap, knowing it could have devastating consequences.
It's a risky move, no doubt.
Yeah.
But remember, Joseph is operating on multiple levels here. He's driven by a deep longing for justice,
Right.
but also by a profound desire for reconciliation.
Right.
This test, as manipulative as it might seem, is his way of forcing a confrontation,
Yeah.
of bringing all their hidden emotions to the surface.
So the brothers depart, completely unaware of the incriminating evidence planted in their midst. What happens when they discover the cup?
Well, they're absolutely horrified. They know this could mean imprisonment or even death for Benjamin. They plead their innocence, but Joseph insists that whoever stole the cup will become his slave.
This feels like the climax of Joseph's test. He's backed them into a corner, forcing them to choose between self-preservation and loyalty to their brother. It's a direct parallel to their past betrayal. A chance for them to prove they've truly changed?
It is, and it's here at this critical juncture that they make a choice that reveals the depth of their transformation.
Right.
Instead of abandoning Benjamin, as they did with Joseph all those years ago, they unite in their defense.
Yeah.
They offer themselves as slaves in his place.
It's a complete reversal of their past behavior.
It is.
They're no longer driven by self-preservation or jealousy.
Right.
They're willing to sacrifice their own freedom to protect their younger brother.
And this act of selfless love and loyalty is the breakthrough Joseph has been longing for.
Yeah.
It shatters the wall he had built around himself. He can no longer maintain his facade. He breaks down, revealing his true identity to his brothers.
Wow.
I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt.
I bet the shock in that room was palpable. Their brother, the one they thought was dead, is standing right there before them, more powerful than they could ever have imagined.
Right. It's a moment of profound emotional reckoning. Years of guilt, shame, and unspoken pain come flooding to the surface. They're terrified, of course. After all, Joseph now holds their fate in his hand.
The ultimate test of his character.
Right.
Will he choose revenge, or will he offer forgiveness?
And in an act of extraordinary grace, he chooses forgiveness.
Wow.
He tells them not to be distressed or angry with themselves for what they did. He even says that God orchestrated the whole ordeal for a greater purpose, to save lives during the famine.
There's such a powerful lesson here about the nature of forgiveness.
Yes.
It's not about condoning wrongdoing. It's about releasing the grip of anger and resentment, allowing for healing and reconciliation.
And it's about recognizing that even in the darkest moments, there can be a higher purpose at work.
Yeah.
Joseph's ability to see God's hand in his own suffering is what allows him to extend mercy to his brothers.
It's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Joseph could have easily become embittered by his experiences. Instead, he chose to rise above his pain, to find meaning and purpose in his adversity.
And this act of forgiveness paves the way for an emotional family reunion. Joseph sends his brothers back to Canaan with wagons laden with food and an invitation for their father Jacob to come live in Egypt, where they will be safe and well provided for.
So a story that began with betrayal and heartbreak culminates in forgiveness, reconciliation, and a profound sense of God's providence. It's a story that continues to resonate with us today, reminding us of the power of forgiveness to heal wounds and restore broken relationships.
What's fascinating here is that this chapter, while emotionally charged, is just the beginning of a much larger narrative. The story of Joseph and his brothers continues exploring themes of leadership, resilience, and the enduring bond of family. It's a story that invites us to reflect on our own relationships, our capacity for forgiveness, and the ways in which we can find meaning and purpose even in the face of adversity.
This has been an incredibly moving deep dive. What stands out to you most about this story, and what lessons do you think we can apply to our own lives?
For me, the most powerful takeaway is the transformative power of forgiveness. It's not easy, but it's essential for healing and growth, both individually and collectively. And Joseph's story reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable pain, there's always the possibility of redemption, of finding a higher purpose in our suffering.
It's a story that encourages us to look beyond the surface, to see the deeper currents at play, and to believe in the possibility of transformation, even in the most challenging circumstances. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world around us.